What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, want to switch to politics. This is an election year, and of course, we are now in primary season. Especially when it comes to the GOP, that's the open primaries. Although Joe Biden's position is not exactly secure either, when you look at how many people are just not confident in his ability to get reelected. And this new poll that came out, not the one I talked about the other day, but it's another one that came out, adds more credence to the perception that Joe Biden is in serious trouble electorally. Let's talk about the state of Georgia. Now, of course, the state of Georgia flipped blue for the first time since 1992, back in 2020. Joe Biden was able to flip that state after many years of Republican dominance on the presidential level, although it also was dominant on the state and local level now. But Joe Biden carried that state by about 11,000 votes, I think it was, out of more than 4 million. So even though the Democrats were able to flip it, it was still a very, very close race. So to be honest with you, if anything, Georgia should be considered purple, not blue. It's more of a purplish state. But anyway, at least for right now. But part of that victory, the reason why he had that victory was because of an overwhelming African American vote for Joe Biden. I mean, he performed, if I'm not mistaken, I think he had historic margins in predominantly black areas. But that was 2020. That was a time of civil unrest. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, all of that. Black Lives Matter was at its peak or apex. Then also you had the anger toward the Trump government in many areas, in particular minority areas, because of the perception they weren't giving a damn about the coronavirus epidemic, the economic collapse. So there are a lot of reasons for people to be voting anti-Trump in 2020. What a difference 4 years makes. And according to a new poll, Donald Trump now leads in the state of Georgia. I would put a link to this article, to Politico, but YouTube seems to be having a problem now with us putting links and pinned comments. So I'll just read this is from Politico. And it says, Trump leads Biden in Georgia, new poll shows. Former President Donald Trump leads President Joe Biden in the swing state of Georgia, according to a poll from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and the University of Georgia. Trump held a 45% to 37% lead over the incumbent Democrat among registered voters. The remaining respondents, nearly 20%, said they weren't sure, wouldn't vote in the race, or planned to cast a ballot for another candidate. The survey did not name potential third-party candidates. 62% of respondents had a negative view of Biden's job performance, with a slim majority saying they strongly disapprove of the incumbent. Only 37% approved of Joe Biden's performance as president. What's especially telling in this poll is the continuing trend in polling, and this has been going on since at least 2021, 2022, of the erosion in the black community of support for Joe Biden. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but I think Joe Biden got anywhere from 85 to 88 to even 90% of the black vote, depending on which state you're talking about, in 2020. But what was even more impressive was the turnout of the black vote in 2020. This time, the percentage of black voters supporting Joe Biden is pathetic. According to this poll, less than 59% of black voters back Joe Biden. I don't know if you know how terrible that is, but to put that into perspective, when Ronald Reagan won 49 states back in 1984, now the country was a lot less, what's the word I'm looking for? Diverse back then. It was a lot less diverse, but still, back in 1984 when Mondale lost 49 states, Mondale still carried about 87-88% of the black vote. When Al Gore narrowly lost in 2000 to George W. Bush, Gore still got over 90% of the black vote. John Kerry still got nearly 90% of the black vote. Hillary Clinton still won 87% of the black vote when she ran back in 2016. Something is wrong, seriously wrong, when a national Democratic candidate for president is polling less than 60% of the black vote. You're not going to win. You're not going to win when you're getting less than 6% of the black vote. You're just not. You're not. Because you can't make it up anywhere else. The majority of whites vote Republican. According to polling, a majority of Latinos may vote Democratic, but depending upon what state you're talking about. I don't know I don't know what percentage of Latinos make up voters in Georgia, but I don't think it's as much as black voters. So the math don't math. You know what I'm saying? Also in comparison, this poll gives Trump more than 20% of the black vote. The last Republican candidate to get more than 20% of the black vote was Richard Nixon back in 1960. And that was when many more whites were voting Democratic. That was when 17 million more registered voters were Democratic than Republican back then. That's when the Democrats had a huge electoral advantage throughout the country. That's why for so many years the Democrats controlled the House of Congress. That didn't stop really until the early to mid 1990s. So yeah, for Trump to get 20%, it's over. I don't know what the popular vote would be like nationally, but if Trump got anywhere close to 20% of the black vote nationally, it's a Republican landslide in the Electoral College. It's not even be close. And not only that, if that trend continues, see, I don't know whether that's just unique to Biden or whether it'll be a trend for Democrats everywhere. But if Democrats everywhere are hemorrhaging black voters, and there's also not just a hemorrhaging as far as percentage, but if there's a suppressed black vote throughout the country, Democrats are going to be losing seats left and right. It'll be a Republican landslide. By that I mean not only would Trump win by electoral landslide, maybe not necessarily a popular vote landslide, but electoral landslide, but he would also have coattails, because just by black voters not coming out to vote, just by Latinos not coming out to vote, and more Latinos voting Republican, many black people voting Republican out of protest, you're going to have Senate candidates, Democratic candidates, Senate Democratic candidates, House Democratic candidates, gubernatorial candidates who are Democrats. They're going to lose. You might see a wave. It's possible. Now, we're still 10 months away from Election Day. A little bit less than that now. And one thing that Trump should be concerned about, though, is that he's under 50% in that poll. Now, I wouldn't, if I'm Trump, I wouldn't be beating my chest and thinking the election is over. It's not. Especially when you're polling under 50% and you have that many undecideds. So it's not over. But I have to tell you, for an incumbent candidate like Biden to have dropped from 50+% in Georgia to 37%, not good. Not good at all, man. I'm seeing a lot of. It's a bad omen. It's a lot of. I mean, the polling, to me, is reminiscent of George H.W. Bush in 1992. It's reminiscent of Jimmy Carter in 1980. You know, hell, it kind of reminds me of, even though the economic situation isn't that bad, Herbert Hoover in 1932, but it's not that bad, though. It's not that bad. But still, it's bad. I mean, because even with George H.W. Bush, even though there was a primary challenge by Pat Buchanan, there was still no serious reasons to believe that Bush wouldn't get the nomination. But there were people in the party that were unhappy with his what they believed to be lack of conservative principles. Jimmy Carter actually had a stronger challenge within the Democratic Party to Ted Kennedy, but even that seems even with Jimmy Carter, he was still getting 60+% support. Biden's in the 50s and within his own party. It's not good at all. Tell me what you guys think.